Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Marissa Shadrick here. And in this Resilient Faith Online podcast, I have a very special guest. And I am excited because she has overcome some huge obstacles in the area of finance. And she's going to tell us her story and her journey on how she was able to get out of debt. So, welcome, Marie Sonneman. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of background on what you do and as far as the online space, how do you help people?
Yeah. So my name is Marie Sonneman, and I work in law enforcement, and I've been in that for about 15 years. And I got into finances when I found myself in $106,000 in debt. And so that's what led me down the path to figure it out for myself and then figure it out for some family members as well. And that got me on the journey. And so Ordinary to Badass helps, majority of it is women, to get out of debt and to live a life that they've always wanted to live.
I love it. Taking control back of your life and not feeling like a victim, but saying, hey, okay, I'm in this situation, but I'm going to do something about it. So you said $106,000. You kind of gloss over that. So I wanted to sit on that for a second. Is that correct?
Yeah.
$106,000. Now I'm guessing some of that was probably education, that kind of stuff that accumulated.
No, I wish I had some great story about some great thing that I got. It was just some of it was cars or like a trailer. But a lot of it was just debt that I accumulated on credit cards. And that's how I began paying stuff, was just, via credit card. And that's what I used to solve my problems, but it just created a bigger problem.
Right. So what was the moment when you figured I need to do something different? I need to stop. And when was that aha moment that you decided this has to change?
um, I think a big thing for me was I was married at the time, and I got served with paperwork that my ex, or my spouse at the time, his house was going into foreclosure, his second house. And I had no clue about it, no idea. And so I'm like, I'm not the type of person to have a house go in foreclosure, but I got served with that paperwork, and I'm not the type of person who wants to have to go to collections or have issues, file bankruptcy. Now, I'm not knocking people that have to do it, because I was probably close. But that was really my wake up call to say, okay, something's really got to change here.
Right. All of a sudden, it's like something you never expected that you
Yeah.
would be facing. And now you're facing it. And it was like a reality check for you that, oh my gosh, I'm hitting rock bottom here. I've got to do something different. So, how did it feel as far as stepping into whatever journey you decided to take to do that? Did it seem impossible? Did it seem like, okay, I'm just going to dig my heels and work this out and figure this out? I mean, did you have hope of being out of debt, or was that something that I'm going to try, and if it works, great. If not, I'll try to spend less money. What was your mindset around that?
The whole thing felt very intimidating. It felt overwhelming and intimidating. And I just didn't know where to start. Growing up, a lot of us aren't taught finances. We're not taught what to do or where to save money. So it really just felt intimidating. And really, the budget, creating a budget, anything like that, felt so like out of reach for me. I was like, I was never good at math. How am I going to do this? So it was intimidating, but the pain was so strong of being in debt and the threat of like going to collections or having a house go into foreclosure. That was so big that I was like, I have got to figure this out one way or another. I'm going to make a change.
Right. So regardless whether you had the skills or felt like you had the skills, I can resonate with what you said. The pain was greater than the fear of moving forward and doing something different. And sometimes for some of us, it's a motivation of something that we may want in the future, but oftentimes it's the pain of our situation. I mean, you can think of that in different scenarios, even with weight gain and those kind of things, when people feel like I can't fit in my clothes anymore. This is my point of of turning this around and changing what I'm doing, or whatever it might be, and any kind of addiction for that matter, could be a wake up call where you decide, I'm going to change this and do something better. And it could be even being a workaholic of just
Right.
working so much that you're not spending time with. I'm just creating these scenarios because we think, well, I'm not like that. But when you think about it, I have to guard against being a workaholic because I work so much, and I have to make sure that I have an end time, that I have my goals and things that I have set each day, because that can become a sort of addiction where I'm not giving the time that I need to my family or my grandchild or whatever it might be. So we have to be careful, don't we, about how we spend our time and how we spend our resources?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one area tends to bleed into another area. Like if we're not
Mm.
balanced with our work life, if we're not balanced with our relationships, our finances, our health, it starts to create little bubbles or little problems in other areas of our life. So it's so
Ooh,
important.
yeah, that's a great insight because did you find that the issue wasn't necessarily money, that it was something else, something deeper?
Yeah, it's a mindset game. It's completely a mindset game. When I was upset emotionally, like I ended up getting a divorce, but I wasn't necessarily happy in my marriage and I wasn't taking care of that. And I think that that bled over to my finances. So like I use my emotions to spend, to buy something on Groupon, to buy something on Amazon. So it
Yeah.
is so important to pay attention to all the areas of your life.
That's true. That is true. Because I know when I've worked a long day and I'm tired, I feel like I need a reward of something that's not healthy for me to eat.
Yeah.
And those are the habits we want to break. When you think of it as counterproductive, why would I want to put junk in my body after I've worked really hard? But
Right.
that comfort food, right? Oh my gosh. So, how long did it take you to get out of debt? $106,000 is a lot.
I know it was just under 2 years, which absolutely blew my mind. But I just like bared down, knuckled down. It was like, I'm going to get this done. And so I started working all the overtime that I could, doing everything that I could to just throw as much money at it. And then once I started to gain momentum, then it got exciting. And I probably gave up more and stopped doing less stuff, like started dyeing my hair at home instead of going to the salon, like those kind of things, just because I saw the results. Like I was like, okay, I'm seeing movement. I'm getting somewhere now.
Oh, okay, got you. So, how long before you started seeing momentum? Because it took you 2 years, which I think is amazing. For that amount of debt, I think you just knocked it out like very quickly. So, when you actually saw like momentum building, where about on that scale from beginning to 2 years did that happen?
I think that it happened pretty early. I mean, the first time when I wrote everything down and I saw that it was $106,000, I was overwhelmed and just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So that felt like a lot. But then relatively quickly, I started to see like, okay, I have a plan. And I think that's a huge part of it, is just having a plan of what you're going to do. And so I had a plan to pay off the smallest debt first. And that's what I started doing. So relatively quickly, I started to see, okay, this is working. So I would say within a couple months.
Oh, wow, that quickly.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
that's encouraging to just hunker down and to do that. So did you deprive yourself of a lot of things, or did you just do it differently? Because sometimes we're not depriving ourselves. There's just a better way. Like instead of eating out, we can make an amazing, healthier meal at home. It just maybe will take us 30 minutes or 60 minutes to do it, as opposed to driving, which probably will only save you maybe 15 minutes because because you got to drive to a restaurant, you got to sit there, you got to wait for the waitress to come in and serve you, and by the time you're done you got to wait for the check. So it might be longer actually eating out than it is making something at home. Did you do things like that?
I think that I did deprive myself of some things, but
Mm-hmm.
it got more intense as time went on, like because I got so excited and I started seeing the results. So or in the beginning, I was like, I'm not giving up my coffee. I'm still going to go to Starbucks once a week or twice a week or, just a little bit. And then as I started to see some momentum, then I was like, okay, let me just try creamer, and so I'd do creamer and have that at home. And then, I started moving away from some of the extra stuff that I would have done before, but it was because I started seeing results. And,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of depriving yourself completely. I think that it is nice to pick one or two things that you want to splurge on. So if you want to get your hair done, pick that. If one thing is your thing, as long as it's not like a crazy amount of money, you still should surprise yourself or delight in some of the small things.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to completely restrict yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have to get my hair done.
Yes.
That's a must. So that one just it's like eating and anything else and sleep.
Breathing.
Yeah, eating and breathing. I gotta get my hair done. So that's amazing. So I think the excitement and the momentum and seeing the results, just you saw the end. You saw the end of the tunnel. And you knew that if you continue to do this, it would continue. I mean, it's almost like accumulating the debt, how quickly we can do it. We can shave it off just as quickly when we're focused. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do have to buckle down a little bit or have a plan going forward. But oh my gosh, if somebody had told me I could pay that debt off in under 2 years, I wouldn't have believed them. There's no way I would have believed that that could be true. But it really can come off a lot quicker than you think.
What was the hardest part?
Um, Sometimes people look at you like you're a little bit weird. Because I started going out to lunch at work and stuff, like with coworkers. And so people would ask me to go out to lunch, and it wasn't even that I wanted to go so much anymore because my priority was paying off the debt. But it is sometimes like people are like, okay, you can't go this one time, or how about I pay for your lunch? But that wasn't the point. Like I wanted to get out of the habit of spending all the time. So that was a little bit different, is just seeing people look at you weird.
Are they looking at you like a cheapskate? Like you don't even want to, spend any money on a hamburger or something?
Right. Because it's common culture,
Yeah,
just for
it is.
people at lunch or something when you're at work to just go out to eat together, and that becomes common. So when somebody's not, it kind of, you stick out a little bit.
I think that's a great point, though, to prepare yourself to realize you are going counterculture. So there is going to be like an unspoken resistance because you're doing something differently. So that could be also something that we could be aware of and prepare for, right? So I
Yeah,
think that's a great insight that there can be, and it's not because people are trying to derail us from our goals. It's just that that's what everybody's used to doing. So yeah, for
right.
sure, for sure. So what was the feeling that you had when you were, say, 1 month before you finished paying off the debt? You saw it that close. You could almost reach out and touch it. How did that feel?
Oh, I was so stinking excited. And actually, when you say that, this was probably a little bit before a month, but I had a Suburban, and I sold the Suburban and got like $14,000 cash back. And so I remember I had to put that 14,000 towards debt, but I remember looking at it in my bank account and like taking a screenshot of it and being like, oh, I'm going to remember this moment forever. And I kept trying to picture the next time, like once I paid off my debt, being able to have that $14,000, because I do think visualizing and picturing what you want is a good thing, and it's
Yeah.
helpful. So
Yeah.
every once in a while, when I'd feel, if I felt intimidated or doubt or anything, like I would look at that screenshot and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah. So you didn't feel, did you ever feel kind of sad or depressed? Because it sounds like you worked a lot of overtime. You took as much work as you could. So there's, fatigue that happens when you're working a lot of hours. Do you ever feel like, gosh, I need a reward? Did you reward yourself in any way during that time?
I'm sure that I did. Nothing is sticking out as to what I did, but I think I just got so stinking excited. And the further it got in the process, the more I just like hunkered down, like, okay, let's get this out of the way. Let's get rid of this debt.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting. So how do you make purchases now? Do you wait until you have all the money before you buy something, or do you wait like 2 weeks before you purchase something to think it over? Or how are your buying habits now?
Yeah, I definitely try to hold off. And it's still the same trap. Like sometimes you still get into a habit of, ooh, but I really want this, or this would be so good. And I had an RV and in the past, but it got totaled. Like somebody ran into it and it completely got totaled. But I was like,
Oh,
oh my gosh. I mean, I had gap insurance, so it was all good. I got rid of it, but I almost fell into that same trap. Like even though I was relieved not to have that RV payment or anything anymore, even after I was out of debt, it was like so tempting, like, oh, it'd be so fun to just go get an RV and to travel. That would have put me back in debt.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I had my brother who knew how much I had worked so hard to get out of debt. And he was like, Marie, are you sure that's a good decision? Maybe you should hold off for a while. And thank goodness he said it and kind of not put me back in my place, but kind of reminded me of what was important to me. So it's always something where you kind of have to say, okay, what's important? Why am I doing this? Because there's still going to be temptations along the way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And if I see something that's, maybe a larger ticket item, I wait a little bit to see if it's that important 2 weeks later. And then I kind of figure out whether I really need it or not. Because you're right. There's a lot of things out there today that, are, for lack of a better word, are just plain old fun, and we think, well, we can rationalize why we need it. Let's put it that way. We can rationalize why we need it. I like shopping a lot, and I've curved a lot because during the pandemic, a couple of years ago when everything shut down, couldn't go shopping, couldn't get my hair done. I mean, that was kind of an eye opener that, well, I really have enough clothes. I don't really need to buy more clothes. And this year, I haven't really gone shopping a lot. I just I'm okay with what I have, and so that makes me a little bit more selective to choose something rather than impulse. When I find something on sale or something that I like, then maybe I'll purchase that. But it used to be that I'd go shopping all the time. It was like one of those habits, those
Yeah,
addictions.
absolutely. But like honestly, I do look back at that time of getting out of debt as like one of the best times of my life, or like
Really?
so happy because you have less things. And then kind of like you were
Yeah.
saying, you realize that you don't need as much as you think you need or as much as you want. And so sometimes less is more. It's
Yeah.
just you have to experience it to really realize, okay, yeah, that was a good time. I did appreciate not having so much clutter or shopping so much.
Oh my gosh, this is so true. Because the more you have, at least when you're okay, as you grow up and you get your job and you get married and you have a career, and then the traditional thing is to buy a house, and then you buy the latest car, then the kids go to school and you pay for education. It really accumulates, and it begins to, at least the home, it has a way of owning you instead of you owning the home. At least
Right.
when we lived in California, I mean, we had a pool and you had to maintain the pool. We had to cut the grass. We had to plant flowers in the spring. It was just, there was always so much house stuff to do all the time. And so we don't own a home now. We rent a home and we're thinking of moving again. But it's nice because I've been eliminating stuff for the last like 3 years or so, slowly eliminating things that I don't want. I don't want to bring it along because moving is
Right.
traumatic enough. But you have to clean it too. You have to dust it and clean it and maintain it. And it has a way of owning you. And I'm not a minimalist by any means, but I'm okay with less because there's just less maintenance. I don't want to spend the time that I have, any free time, cleaning or fixing or maintaining or any of that. I just don't want to anymore, at least in this stage in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in the rat race or to want things. And I'm not saying that I don't still want things, it's so easy to get caught up in that. But there is a beauty of the simplicity of not having so much.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So if someone, say, is listening to this and they're thinking, wow, I would love to be in the position that Maria is now, debt free, but I just don't know. I can't work overtime. I don't know how I can even start. What would you suggest? Is there like maybe 3 tips that you can give them, a place where they can begin when they're just first starting to wrap their brain around the concept of getting out of debt?
Yeah, I would say first start off with putting some money in your savings account. So pay your minimum debt on all your bills, and then put $1,000 in the bank if you're single, 1,500 if you're married or have kids. So make sure that you have money in the savings in case an emergency happens or a rainy day, something like your car breaks down, just so that you have some extra money to pay for that. And then start paying the smallest bill first. And start paying the smallest bill first. And then after you get that debt paid off, pay the next smallest bill, the next smallest bill, and work your way up. It really is just finding that system, creating a plan, and then following it every step of the way. And so, yeah, just write down a list of your debts, smallest to largest, and
So
attack the smallest one
does it
first.
make a difference? I'm really getting into the nitty gritty here. So say they have credit card debt. Okay, let's use that for an example. And they have limited amount that comes in. They're living paycheck to paycheck, right? And they have maybe $100 that they've already put money in the savings. They have maybe $100 a month. And sometimes that's hard for people, but they have $100 a month that they can pay toward debt. Should they just make a bigger payment, or should they make a payment and then in between statements make a payment? Is there a better rhythm to pay on principal as opposed to, the principal and interest, or is it just depends on the financial institution to figure out what the best way is?
Well, I would just pay the whatever. If you have $100 extra, I would just pay that on your smallest bill that you have and pay that off, and then all of that money will then be going to the next bill above that. I wouldn't worry too much about the interest. I know I always thought like, oh, but I should be getting the higher interest cards first. You know what? You need the quick win. It's really
Yeah.
important to have
Yeah.
the quick win of paying that lowest debt off first.
Yeah.
And you start with $100, but it will gain momentum and get bigger as time goes.
Yeah. How did your credit score change? It probably bumped up your credit score, huh? Getting out of debt, not owing anything.
I think it had to have. I've always had a high credit score.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to have bumped it up a little bit, because I think having all of your credit cards, so having a lot of money on each credit card, tends to lower your credit, but I didn't see anything too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get a lot of mail saying, "Oh, you can have this. You've been pre-approved for this credit card"? Once you started paying off everything, people trying to get you to open up another credit card, because we get a lot of those. We get a lot of mail where, "Oh, you've been approved for this, you've been approved for that," or consolidate your debt and all these other things. You just have to ignore all those things, huh?
Yes, I say ignore those. And that kind of makes me think of another point too. When it comes to email, unsubscribe. If you're getting any type of offers, or if they're, say, like, I love Amazon, right? So I will unsubscribe from Amazon. I'm not going to forget how to get to Amazon, to their website. So just unsubscribe from it. You can still find it, but sometimes they send you daily reminders, 2 or 3 reminders a day. It's like, just get rid of it. It's one less temptation that you have.
Yeah, Amazon is a temptation, and it's so easy with that one click.
Exactly.
The one click is super easy, and everything is easy. And I think that's the problem. You want to watch a movie, streaming is easy, but of course, streaming is cheaper than going to the theater. But everything is so easy with a push of the button. I think that's what happens, that we leak out. Maybe it's not huge purchases, but it's all the little purchases that we're doing that accumulate. I mean, would you
Yes.
say that that's true? Because sometimes people are saying, "Well, I don't make really big purchases," but maybe there's a whole bunch of little purchases, like
There's
going to Starbucks, for example.
absolutely, and that adds up more than you even know. And if you're not paying attention and tracking it, then it's really going to add up. And for me, this is going to sound silly, but like, grocery shopping is where I spend a lot of money, and it just makes no sense. So that is one thing I'm always going to make sure that I have cash out each month for grocery shopping, because it's like, I know that that's where I would overspend. But if I just have a
Oh,
set limit and I only have cash for my groceries, then I'm more mindful of it.
oh, wow, that's counterculture too. So you use cash. So see, I didn't catch that earlier. You use cash to buy some things.
Yes, I do. Things that like are that I'm tempted to spend on, those are the things that I'm going to try and use cash on.
Ah, very smart. Very smart. Yeah, because I hardly ever see cash. I just have my little debit card. So that's a good tip, to just go back to cash and use cash. And once the cash is done, I think there used to be like the envelope system years ago. I don't know if it was Dave Ramsey or
It
someone.
was. It
Yeah,
was.
that used the envelope system, where I remember when I was single, I used an envelope system before I knew of Dave Ramsey, only because I only had a limited amount of cash when I was single, and I'd put so much for groceries and, gas and that kind of stuff. And I'd wash my own car and those kind of things. But that's a good way to budget as well, is just give yourself the cash and not use. And did you cut up the credit cards? Did you just cut them up and not use them? Or did you freeze them and put them in ice or something in the freezer?
Yes, I was terrified to cut them up because I was like, what if something happened? Like
Yeah.
I just was too paranoid or too worried if something happened. So yeah, I did the freezer technique because those just wasn't quite ready to cut them up.
So you did do the freezer thing. You just
I
put the
did.
you put the credit card in a cup of water or something, or
Yeah, just in a little container of water and then put it in the freezer.
put it in the freezer. Oh, so that worked, because I guess it would take a while for it to thaw out and get to it. Gives you time to think. So you did everything you could to kind of protect yourself against any possible oopses while you were trying to get out of debt. You
Yeah.
knew yourself well enough, and you really empowered yourself to be able to accomplish this. So be able to, chip away at it. And I'm sure it probably got easier as you got closer to that goal. So,
It
yeah. So I'm
it
sure it was.
absolutely got
Mhm.
easier. And then also it's like surround yourself with people that will support you. Like
Mm,
my brother wasn't on the journey, but he would still support me. You know what I mean? Or like if I was
yeah.
tempted to do something, I might call him. Or at the time, I was listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast all the time. Like I would have it on replay. But so if I felt tempted to go buy something, then I would be listening to that and I would hear somebody call in with the similar type thing. And so it was kind of a reminder like, okay, yes, don't
Yeah.
go overspend because that's going to be the result, or this is where it's going to get you. So surround yourself with podcasts or YouTube channels, and people in your life that are going to help support you with your goal.
Or with you. Because
Right.
don't you help people now to get out of debt?
Yes, absolutely.
That is so awesome. So, do people need to have like a spreadsheet or something? Do you think it's a good idea for them to write things down, or how do they, when they create the plan, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I have like a money owed worksheet. So on one worksheet, I have all the money that I owe, like the company name, what the minimum amount due each month, what the total due each month is, and then like their address, their phone number, what my account number is with them. It's just kind of a sheet that I could go to at any time. Say I didn't get a bill in the mail or something. I could go to it at any time, and be like, what day is this due? What day of the month? And where do I send it to? Just a quick cheat sheet is helpful. And then from that, you can create a budget.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about a little bit about how you help people, because this is just one of the many things that you do. Because you have a career, but you also have an online presence as well. So tell us a little bit about that. How you started that process of deciding to do something online to coach people. How did that? Because you're a police officer, right? Or you're a sergeant, or
I'm a sergeant. Yep.
you're a sergeant. So that you've got quite a career right there that's probably takes up most of your time, but you decide to do this other thing. So tell us a little bit about that. How do you help
Yeah.
people?
So once I got done paying off the debt, I was kind of thinking like, what do I do next? And my parents were in debt and I was just worried like, okay, they're going to retire in a couple years. What if they don't have money? What if, they're struggling? And so I took it upon myself. I was like, I need to do something. And my brother was like, what if you be a financial coach? And so I actually got certified through Dave Ramsey to be a master coach. And so I did that. And then actually I sat down with my mom, helped her create a budget. And then to my surprise, because I didn't work with her anymore, to my surprise, within a couple of years, she paid off her debt and her mortgage for her house. So
Really?
her and my dad were set to go. Yeah. So, I mean,
Oh
sometimes,
my goodness. That's
yeah,
amazing. So the system works. Not only did it work for you, nobody can say this is a fluke, because not only did it work for you, but you helped your mom create a plan, and then she got out of debt within a couple of years.
absolutely. Absolutely. So sometimes you changing yourself or changing your life helps, like has a trickle effect and can help other people too.
Yeah, because by that time when you were helping your mom, you were already out of debt.
I was, and I was
So
a master
yeah.
coach at that time. Yeah.
So she was saying, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit. Like you just need the little bit of momentum going forward and have the plan, and then it can, I mean, you could set the world on fire.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So your parents got out of debt too. So if someone wanted to say, oh my gosh, I need somebody like Marie to help me, do you do one-on-one or group coaching, or do you have what's your program look like?
I do one-on-one coaching, and I also have a course called Badass Money School. And so
Oh,
if you want to be with a group of people, and work with other people and have some accountability there, that would be for you. But if you want one-on-one focused attention, then just come to me.
that's nice that they have a choice, because some people might feel bad about themselves or might feel guilty that they're in debt and maybe they want something more confidential. So that's nice that you offer the one-on-one, but this is something like you said earlier, it's around us everywhere. I mean, there's marketing everywhere. That we get it through emails, we get it in commercials on TV, we get it in the mail. We're inundated with it, right?
Right.
So I think many people have struggled with finances at some point or other, or sometimes it's an unexpected thing that happens and puts people in debt out of no fault of their own. When you think of medical stuff, and if somebody for some reason, had some kind of medical emergency or surgery or something that's not covered by insurance, so they didn't have insurance, that could really derail someone. So I think it's great that you offer the one-on-one, and then you have also the training that they can do. Is there a community environment too for the digital training that you have for them?
There is. Yep. There's a Facebook group that you could be a part of. And once you're in for life.
That's awesome. Yeah, because once you get out of debt, you want to stay out of debt. So it's
Exactly.
good to have a community that you're in for a long time. Awesome. So if someone wanted to connect with you and say that next year is their year to start getting out of debt, and they're figuring out now, because at the time of this recording, it's close to the holiday season. So we're coming up on 2022. So say they want to make some huge changes and they want to figure out how they can take the wages they make from week to week and how they can get out of debt. What's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah. ordinarytobadass.com, or ordinary to badass on any social media. If they go to ordinarytobadass.com/numbers, it's not about the numbers challenge, and they could definitely join and become as part of that.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I think this is so great what you're doing and what you did for your parents. That is amazing. So I think this program sounds like an amazing opportunity for people to just, even if they're not really in debt, but maybe finances are not where they want it to be. Maybe they just really want to save money. I think this course could help them as well. Even if they don't have, maybe they only have a couple thousand on their credit card, but they can't seem to save money, right? They just seem to
Absolutely.
plateaued. That this would be a good thing for them. So it's not necessarily, sounds like it's not necessarily for people that are in debt, but people that can't seem to save or get beyond the same old amount of money that they have. They can't get any further ahead. Sounds like this could help them also kind of review things and budget and see where the leak is, right?
Absolutely. And I was just working with somebody recently like that. Like, she didn't have a lot of debt, but she wanted to plan for retirement. And so to
Oh,
start saving and plan for the retirement in the future that she wanted, we met and mapped out a plan. So it's definitely helpful.
that sounds really, really good. So for those people that want to kind of map out their retirement and figure out where can I cut or where can I make adjustments so that by a certain time of year, I have some revenue saved up. I mean, that would be really, really good, because we've got people right now, that maybe they were in corporate, maybe they had a pension, or maybe they didn't, because a lot of things have shifted and changed in corporate. A lot of people got laid off. So this is a great opportunity to really kind of assess where they're at and not be filled with fear, but look at it straight on and figure out what can we do to make this happen. So that sounds really great. I may be contacting you too. I may be joining your, because I think it's always good to plan for the future and see how we can use the resources that we have to its greatest potential. Let's put it that way, right?
Yes, yes. And I would say let it be easy. It doesn't have to be as hard as we think that it should be. Let it be easy. Get a little bit excited about it, because this is your future you're talking about. It can make
Yeah.
crazy changes for your future.
Yeah, yeah. So this has been so awesome having you on the podcast. Do you have any last comment or tip or encouragement for our listeners before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I would say what I learned from the journey, and it is so helpful for you, is just to be consistent and persistent. Whatever goal you're going after, if it's your finances, if it's your health, just be consistent about it. Keep showing up for yourself. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake.
That's
You
awesome.
can, yeah, you can absolutely make mistakes and still pay off $106,000 in debt in 2 years or whatever obstacle you're trying to overcome. Don't beat yourself up over the small things.
That's awesome. And give us the website again.
Ordinarytobadass.com.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Marie. I think this is going to help a lot of people out there that are listening. I think they're ready for some changes, and people are a little nervous about all the changes going on right now. And I think for them to feel like they've got a plan for their finances and for their future is going to give them a lot of peace, a lot of comfort. So I think that's awesome. So congratulations. That's great.
Absolutely. It's a new year. It's time to get started, and I would love to help you. Thank you
Yep.
for having me.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.